Gloria Tate, a 58-year-old nurse with 30 years of dedicated service, never expected her worst night to begin with a simple trip to the pharmacy. Exhausted after a grueling double shift at the hospital, her only thought was to pick up her prescription and head home. But on this warm Georgia evening, with the air thick and heavy as molasses, injustice was waiting for her beneath the flickering glow of that suburban drugstore's lights. The pharmacy clerk, a teenage boy too absorbed in his phone to offer even basic courtesy, barely looked up as Gloria handed over her ID, insurance card, and prescription slip. What should have been a routine transaction quickly soured when the manager, a tight-lipped woman named Diane Foster, hovered at the register. Foster's expression darkened as she scanned the computer screen, and without explanation she leaned in and whispered sharply to the clerk. Gloria, who had picked up the same medication from this pharmacy for years, immediately felt the shift. It was the same shift she had felt countless times before, the shift that Black Americans know all too well when suspicion fills the air before a single word is spoken. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Diane said with syrupy condescension, "but there's an issue with your prescription. The account details don't match. We'll have to contact the authorities." Authorities? Gloria stood still, refusing to give them the reaction they sought. Calmly, she presented her documents again. "This is my ID. My insurance. My prescription. Please check it again." But Diane had already stepped back, her mind made up. She folded her arms, her gaze full of quiet accusation. "Please wait right here." Outside, the sound of sirens pierced the night. Two white police officers entered the store: Sergeant Rick Coleman, broad and sneering, and Officer David Miller, younger, visibly uneasy but complicit nonetheless. Without checking the documents, without asking a single question, Coleman approached Gloria with the swagger of a man who believed he owned the law. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step outside," he ordered. "I haven't done anything wrong," Gloria replied, steady but burning inside. The boy at the counter looked away. The other customers froze. One man started filming quietly from the cold medicine aisle. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," Coleman threatened, resting a hand on his belt. "I have my paperwork," Gloria repeated. "I have my ID. I have my insurance. My prescription is valid." But facts didn't matter here. Coleman grabbed her wrist roughly, ignoring the gasps from the customers, ignoring the camera phone now clearly trained on him. He cuffed her tightly, yanking her toward the exit like she was dangerous, like she was guilty, like she wasn't a respected nurse who had spent her life saving others. The store manager watched with smug satisfaction as Gloria was paraded through the pharmacy. She kept her head high, refusing to give Diane Foster the pleasure of seeing her break. As the squad car door slammed shut, Gloria met Coleman's eyes and said, her voice like steel, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." And she was right. Because what they didn't know was that Gloria Tate wasn't alone. She had a father. Walter Tate, a retired FBI legend known across the country for taking down corrupt officials and exposing the darkest corners of injustice. And when Gloria's call reached him, Walter didn't hesitate. The story of what followed would stretch from the cold tile of a pharmacy floor to the marble halls of federal courts. It would spark protests, trigger federal investigations, and pull the rotten roots of corruption into the harsh light of day. But through it all, Gloria stood strong, not just for herself, but for every person who had ever been told they didn't belong. For every voice that had been silenced. For every dignity that had been stolen. This is her story. And it's only the beginning. It all started on what should have been just another ordinary night at a quiet suburban pharmacy. Gloria Tate, a 58-year-old Black nurse, had worked back-to-back shifts at Savannah Memorial Hospital, tending to patients, comforting grieving families, and doing the work that many couldn't handle. Her body ached from exhaustion, but she still needed to swing by the local pharmacy to pick up her prescription for blood pressure medication before heading home. The Georgia heat clung to the air, sticky even at night. The streetlights outside buzzed faintly, casting dull halos over the empty parking lot as Gloria pulled her worn sedan into a spot under one flickering lamp. She moved with the kind of quiet dignity that only decades of hard work and lived experience could shape. Though her feet throbbed and her back protested, she held her head high, purse over one arm, prescription slip and insurance card tucked neatly inside. Inside the pharmacy, the fluorescent lights glared down on empty aisles. A young teenage clerk leaned against the counter, bored, scrolling his phone without even looking up as Gloria approached. She offered a polite smile, handed over her prescription, her ID, and insurance card. The transaction was routine, or so she thought. The clerk, frowning now at the computer screen, muttered something and waved over the store manager. The manager, a woman in her mid-40s with pursed lips and a pinched expression, approached, glancing between the monitor and Gloria. Her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the manager said, her voice tight with the syrupy sweetness that drips just before the knife cuts. "There's an issue with your account information." Gloria raised an eyebrow. "I've been filling this prescription here for years. I haven't changed my information." The woman didn't blink. "It's not matching. I'm afraid we can't process your prescription tonight." Calm but firm, Gloria leaned forward slightly. "You have my ID. You have my insurance card. Everything is correct. Check again." But the manager was already stepping back. Her chin lifted, her eyes cold. "We've contacted the authorities," she said flatly. "You'll need to wait right here." Gloria's stomach sank, but her face remained steady. 30 years in trauma wards had taught her how to stay calm in a crisis. But this was not a medical emergency. This was something colder, deeper, the old familiar weight of suspicion, of judgment rendered on sight. The air in the pharmacy shifted, thickening with quiet tension. Gloria didn't leave. She knew walking away would be seen as guilt. Instead, she stayed exactly where she was, standing tall, waiting. The sirens arrived faster than expected. 2 police officers strode into the pharmacy, both white, both wearing the easy arrogance of men used to having the final say. One was tall and broad, with a sneer curling his lip beneath a buzz cut. The other, younger, thinner, hovered just behind, uncertain. The manager rushed to meet them. "That's her," she hissed. "Tried to pick up medication fraudulently. I think she's using someone else's insurance." Neither officer asked for details. They didn't look at the screen. They didn't verify anything. The tall officer squared his shoulders and approached Gloria like she was prey cornered in the wild. "Ma'am, I need you to step outside," he said, voice thick with condescension. Gloria didn't move. "I haven't done anything wrong," she replied, her voice level. The younger officer shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. The manager folded her arms, smug. The tall cop's hand moved to his belt. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." People in the store had started watching. One man near the cold medicine aisle pulled out his phone and hit record. Good, Gloria thought. Let them see. "I have my ID. I have my insurance. I have the prescription. It's mine," Gloria said, holding out her documents. The officer barely looked. "Step outside. Now." When she didn't move fast enough, he grabbed her wrist roughly and snapped the cuffs onto her. Gasps rippled through the pharmacy. The metal bit into her skin as the officer shoved her forward. The ride to the station was silent. In the front seat, Officer Rick Coleman muttered to his partner David Miller, another one of these people thinking they can take whatever they want. Gloria heard every word. By the time they reached the precinct, Gloria's wrists were raw from the cuffs. They booked her like a common criminal mugshot. Fingerprints, paperwork filled out lazily. Name: Gloria Tate. Age: 58. Race: black. That last box was the only one they cared about. They threw her into a holding cell. Cold metal bench. Concrete walls. Coleman leaned on the bars with a smirk. "Want to tell us the real story now?" Gloria met his gaze. "The real story is that you're going to regret tonight." Miller snorted. "You got a magic lawyer hiding in your purse?" She said nothing. She didn't have to, because they had no idea who she was or who was coming for them. Walter Tate, her father, wasn't a man who wasted time. A retired FBI agent. His reputation for taking down corruption was legendary. When he got the call from his daughter, he didn't hesitate. The storm was coming.